Hello, thank you for checking out A1 Math, and today we're looking at properties of exponents with multiplication. Alright, so in order to do properties of exponents with multiplication, here are some of the properties or the rules for exponents. So what you want to do is take a look at your problem and match it up with one of these rules and execute it just like it says. So first, you got the zero exponent property. That means when you have a base raised to the 0, it's going to equal 1. Okay. Next, you have a negative exponent property. That means when you have a base raised to the negative n, you're going to drop it below 1, make it a fraction, and keep it positive. And here it just says this only works when it's not 0, when a or the base is not 0. Second, you have product of powers property, where you have a to the m times a to the n. And as long as the base is the same, you just add your exponents and you keep it the same. That's product. Next is quotient or division of powers property. And it's similar. Instead of adding, though, you're going to subtract, as long as a is not 0. All right, and power of product properties, where it's similar to distribution where you have a times b raised to the n. That means you can raise the a to the n and raise the b to the n. It's kind of like distributing the exponent to each one of these two different bases. And finally, power of power property, where if you raise something to a particular power, the exponents are going to multiply. So you do m times n on that one. So let's take a look at a few examples. And what you want to do is take a look at the problem and see which one it matches to and execute it just like it says. Alright, so on number 1 here, we have 2 to the 3rd times 2 to the 4th. And they both have the exact same base. So we're going to match that up with the correct rule, which is going to be this one. Notice how this matches up with what's here. So all we're going to do is take these two different exponents that has the same base and just add them together. So we'll end up with 2 raised to the 7. Okay, let's take a look at another example. Okay, here, remember this only works when you have the same base. So I'm going to rearrange these so that we have the same base. You have a minus 2 times 8 raised to the 6 times 5 raised to the 3rd. And now with these being the same base, we're going to use this exact same rule here. And we're going to add a negative 2 plus a positive 6, which is going to get us a positive 4. And then we're just going to bring down the 5 to the 3rd. Okay, so here I'm going to rearrange again. I'm going to put the terms with the same base next to each other. So 2 to the 4th times 2 to the 8th times 3 to the 5th times 3 to the negative 2. All right, and we're just simply going to follow this and just add the exponents here. So we have 2 to the 12th times 5 plus a negative 2 is going to be 3 to the 3rd. Okay, let's take a look at some more examples. Okay, now on this one, they're variables, but everything remains the same. You want to make sure you match up the right base together. So we got m to the 8th times the other m, but it's raised to the 7th, times n raised to the 4th. And we're going to follow the exact same rule here. And we'll have m plus n, which will be 8 plus 7, which will get us m to the 15th, times n to the fourth. Okay, let's take a look at this one. This one's different. Okay, we're going to use this one here. Notice how this looks similar to this here. And that's the power of a power property. So what you're going to do is take those two exponents and multiply them. So I'm going to rewrite it. Write it 6 raised to the fourth times 2. And this time we're not adding, we're multiplying. So we get 6 to the 8th. Write that a little smaller. All right. Now, sometimes you can have a combination of rules here, but initially we could tell that it's going to be m to the nth here, and we're going to execute it just like that. So we'll have 4, and we're going to multiply these two together. So we'll have -3 times 2, and that's going to get us 4 to the -6. But now we have a whole new rule, this one here, where we have a base raised to a negative exponent, and you don't want to leave it in a negative exponent. So all we have to do is take this whole thing and put it over 1. But instead of having it negative, leave it positive. All right, so that's one where you have two different rules applied in the same problem. Okay, let's take a look at A-level. All right, so what we want to do here is, again, take a look at our problem and figure out which one of these rules we're going to use. So with this first one, what we're going to do is see that we have 5 raised to the -3 times 3, and that's the one we've been using for a little bit here, this one here. We also have this 4 raised to a 0, and that's this one up here. So anytime you have a number raised to a 0, as long as it's not 0, it's going to be 1. So I'm going to go ahead and execute that. I got 5 raised to the -3 times 3. And here I've got 4 raised to the 0, which is 1. So here I get -3 times 3, which is -9. And 5 to the -9 times 1 would be that. And now we're going to go ahead and take a look at this rule here. Remember, you can't leave a negative there. So we're going to change this to 1 over 5 to the 9th. So if you stay looking at the rules and matching it with what you have, you can't go wrong. All right, so again, we're going to use this rule down here, the product or the power of a power property here, and find the product by multiplying. So we'll have x to the 2nd times -4. And here I'm just going to bring down this y to the -3. And I'm going to move it down in just a second. So I got 2 times -4, which would be x to the -8. I got y to the -3. So again, we're going to use this rule here. When you have something raised to a negative, you're going to drop it below. So you have 1 over x to the 8th. And here you have 1 over y to the 3rd. And we multiply those two. Okay, and when we multiply that, we'll end up with 1 times 1, which is 1, over x to the 8th, y to the 3rd. Okay, let's take a look at our final problem. Okay, so we got u to the 5th times -2 here. So that's going to be u 5 times -2. And here we'll have v to the 3rd times the 4. And that's this rule down here in the bottom. Okay, and that's going to leave us with u to the -10 times v to the 12th. Okay, and we're going to follow this rule here, drop the negative down here, so we'll have 1 over u to the 10th. And this one we're going to leave alone. It will be v to the 12th. But notice it's still up. We could put an understood 1 here because we're about to multiply these. And when we do, we end up with v to the 12th over u to the 10th. Now again, that is multiplication with exponents there using their properties. The one we didn't use here is quotient of power properties. I'll talk about that one later. But remember these rules. Make sure you take a look at your problem, see which one it matches up with, and execute it like it says. And again, I want to thank you for checking out A1 Math. Have a nice day.